let's quickly open this up. We have Tuhin Sinha, spokesperson of the BJP, with us. We also have Rishi Bagree, who's a political analyst, and Manasvi Thapar, political analyst, with us on this broadcast. If I could quickly begin with you, Tuhin Sinha, I want to understand why is it that the BJP feels that this is not about unemployment, that this is not about price rise, inflation, that this is in fact about relaunching Rahul Gandhi. And very interestingly, what Mr. Rathore has said, that, this is an attempt by the Congress to relaunch Rahul Gandhi for a fourth time because no one else wants to really take up the top post. So why is it that the BJP feels this?
Well, good evening. The crux of the matter really is that Rahul Gandhi and his coterie cannot come to terms with India's economic resurgence. The fact that we are well on course to achieving the target of $5 trillion economy and that we have overtaken UK. And I will explain you why. All the issues that he has raised so far, price rise, if you check the UPA's record, especially the second half of their second tenure, for most of the months, the inflation rate was in excess of 10%. Does he want to artificially, make us stick to those prices, and does he understand the consequences of that? In the last 2.5 years, we have shielded nearly 80 crore people from the impact of inflation by providing the free ration during the COVID months. He doesn't acknowledge that. He castigates or he starts blaming Adani and Ambani, which is a very dangerous thing for any political party to do. Because why doesn't he check the amount of business which Adani and Ambani get from the Congress-ruled state of Rajasthan? Why doesn't he check the amount of business which they got from the Shiv Sena-led government till a few months back, which was supported by the Congress party? So all of his criticism is based on falsehood, and yes, it is a desperate attempt to relaunch him for the umpteenth time, because we know for a fact that the Congress is due to have a new party president. If he is not convinced, if he doesn't want to contest, why is he, the one leading this yatra? And in any case, if you talk about Bharat Joro Yatra, Congress's track record in Bharat Joro is pathetic. It is the cause of most of the problems, whether it was in Kashmir or whether the problems in Punjab.
Okay. Manasvi Thapar, before Bharat Jodo or before trying to really go ahead with that movement, instead focus on your own party. That's what the BJP has been saying. We in fact interestingly heard Ghulam Nabi Azad also, who pointed out, and that of course was in continuation to the 5-page letter that he'd written while he resigned from the Congress party, that there are a lot of problems that must be looked at and must be addressed before it's too late. Talk about the remote control model, talk about elections and how they're not held in a fair manner. He went on to say it in as many words today itself. So he's talking about the fact that there are problems that must be looked at. Introspection is the need of the hour. And the Congress party high command is far away from what's happening on ground. They're busy tweeting all day night.
Okay, so is the BJP implying if the Congress House is not in order, they have no right to speak on what is the present condition of our country? No, that is not the case. That is not how the opposition or in the democracy we function. If there is a price rise in the country, the opposition is there to question the government. If there is problems in the GST, the opposition is there to question the people in power. And the same people who are in power, while they were in opposition, the entire country supported them when there was price rise, when there was CNG, LPG rise, when there was petrol price rise.
Honestly, you remember the kind of adjournments that took place all through the monsoon session. One could not witness any concrete decisions on these very issues because the Congress party just kept resorting to sloganeering, did not let the House function. Those are platforms wherein you can exercise these very rights and go ahead with a detailed discussion, but that did not happen.
You should also remember what happened during the farm laws when they were passed. The opposition was not allowed to make any statement. So this is two-way. You cannot blame the opposition. First time in the country, what we are witnessing is the most powerful party and the most powerful political outfit of the country, which they themselves claim, they say they are so vulnerable that they cannot control the opposition in parliament. Are they implying that? They are saying Congress or the opposition is so strong that they do not let the parliament function. They are the BJP members and the BJP politicians so weak that they cannot conduct the House in order? Are they implying that? They cannot work on the two-way model. At one time they said
it's not it's not the BJP that decided, or the BJP members in the parliament that decided that, the House must be adjourned. There is a protocol that must be followed, and given that, the environment was not conducive for the same, that's exactly why repeated adjournments took place. But let me bring in Rishi Bagree as well. Rishi Bagree, the allegation is also that given that there are investigations being carried out by central agencies, given that, there are questions that are being dodged by some of the Congress leaders, the BJP is also saying that this is once again an attempt to distract people from all of those allegations that have been leveled and all of those investigations that are pending. They want to just distract the people and shift the mudda to inflation and unemployment.
No, it is ironic, Priya, that the Congress leaders are talking about the price rise. I mean, under the UPA government, the retail inflation was in double digit between 2009 and 2014. And you can see the stats. There were no pandemic, no Ukraine-Russia war to jack up those energy prices that time. This was largely due to the irresponsible fiscal, policies, crony capitalism, and the policy paralysis that was often used at that point of time. Now, you come back to today's scenario. The pulses prices are down 30% from the peak. Edible prices are down 20% from the peak. You see the vegetable prices are in their respective seasons are almost the same in the last 8 years. You'll find the tomato, you will find potato, you'll find onion all below 30-40 rupees. So all these things are very much in the proper range in last 8 years when the per capita income is increasing. The commodity prices have cooled down considerably by 30%. You see the petrol diesel price have decreased marginally in last 1 year in India, despite the prices going up in Europe and in the Western countries like in USA and all this thing by 60-70%. Even UAE, like they were the oil producing countries, are selling a higher, they are selling diesel at a higher rate than that of India. You need to understand, you see the perspective. The petrol price of the Bengaluru, I'm just giving you a simple example. The petrol price of the Bengaluru on the 1st September 2021, that was just last year, was 105 rupees. Today it's 102 rupees. It's a 3% down. Now you take any city of your choice, and check the prices yourself. And then you see the currency, Indian currency, which is one of the least depreciated currency against the dollar, when the dollar index is at 20-year high. It's a dollar which is gaining. It is dollar index which is getting.
Interestingly, today's headline also says that India has overtaken the United Kingdom as the 5th largest economy. So, Manasvi, how would you respond to that? Those are the kind of headlines that are coming our way. You have the BJP spokesperson there putting facts on the table, talk about the inflation rate in UPA era, so giving you a record of the UPA essentially with regards to inflation. You have Mr. Rathore, who's also gone ahead and said it in as many words that if we talk about 2014 and onwards, the success rate of the Congress party with regards to electoral victories has not been more than 10%. So those are the kind of reactions coming in. How do you respond?
So you did not interfere when Rishi and Tuhin was speaking. So I hope now for the second time you will not interfere when I make my point.
Okay, go ahead.
I think India is going to be the number one economical power, number one superpower of the country. No one can stop India from moving to the top spot. This is going to be that. The kind of the entrepreneurial nature we have, that is going to happen. But that does not mean that when we talk about unemployment ratio, that is also nationalism. When we talk about issues like price rise, that is also nationalism. When we talk about that petrol and diesel should be bought into GST, that is also nationalism. So nationalism, when criticizing the government, does not mean you are criticizing the country. We all stand together as Indians and we want India to be shining. And this is a question for all of us. We want the parliament should function and parliament should be productive. On the contrary, what we have seen, there is a decline of number of parliamentary functioning days. This is questionable. Why the government is declining the number of days that parliament should function? On the contrary, the bureaucrats are working, the news agencies are working, the lawyers, the judges, everyone is working. Why isn't the parliament functioning so much? So that is also a mindful question. We should be questionable to the government when the government is wrong. When there is a sharp decline in employability, there is a rise of unemployment, there is a rise in price rise, there is a rise in petrol. This is questionable issues.
So Congress is doing what it must. as an opposition to the BJP, as an opposition party, and it's doing what it must do. But
that's okay.
But the question then comes in, Manasvi Thapar, is the Congress in a position to even talk about, what the BJP, for example, is not being able to do? You have leaders of the Congress party exit the party, come out and say that, look, we've been associated with the party for 50 long years. Here's what's not right. We pointed it out in the August 2020 letter. Nothing has been done even then. Talking about a select coterie and how nothing goes beyond that. There are multiple issues that must be addressed. So is the Congress not looking at what it must to begin with and then question any other party on some other front?
See, Congress, when they question the government, they're not questioning the BJP. If it is about the functioning of the Congress, we have had previous debates on the same. It is for the Congress internal organization to address. If they are in politics, they have to fight politics. But the question remains, just because their internal house is not in order, can we say their questions are not valid? No, we cannot say that. The questions on price rise is valid. The question on the rise of petrol and diesel is valid. So the question on unemployability is valid. So these are valid questions. Just because top leaders, senior leaders are leaving Congress, that does not mean they don't have the right to question. That is in the Constitution. Anyone in this country has the right to question, and BJP should address the questions raised by the Congress party and not go into the political drama of not.
Okay, even if the Congress doesn't respond to the questions being asked by the BJP with regards to the National Herald case, even then the BJP must answer to the Congress party with regards to the questions being raised by the party. I want a reaction from Tuhin Sinha. What do you feel?
If there are two things which should really concern and worry Rahul Gandhi right now, it should be, number one, the complete collapse of law and order in the Congress-ruled states, whether it is Rajasthan or Jharkhand. But he's not concerned about that. And the second issue should ideally be the mass exodus of all responsible leaders from the Congress. So I think he should ideally worry about that. But instead, he is more concerned about antics and gimmicks to ensure that he retains his post as Congress president. Again, I'm repeating, if you look at the inflation figures, to maintain a retail inflation of 7% on a year which has seen the Russia-Ukraine war is extraordinary. I think that should be appreciated by all, and the poorer sections have always been extremely sensitive towards the poorer sections, and they have been sensitized from the effects of inflation, which Congress does not realize. So they should get back to real issues and look at what's wrong with Jharkhand and Rajasthan.
Absolutely. No, because, there are statements that have been made by, let's say, the Rajasthan Chief Minister as well, completely turning a blind eye to what's happening, the crime rate in the state itself. So those are questions that too must be answered, but perhaps we'll leave it for another day. I'm afraid, Rishi Bagree, due to lack of time, I'll not be able to take in a word from you. I'll have to leave it at that, gentlemen. Both the sides making claims, counter-claims, flying thick and fast. Let's see what this leads up to, whether or not this is the beginning of the narrative being set by the two sides ahead of 2020.